China overtaking the US in the late 2020s as the world's largest economy. But of course, things changed a lot in the years since then, and we saw China very much not emerged unscathed, economically speaking, from the pandemic themselves.
In the heart of one of the world's most powerful economic giants, a story often untold unfolds. We're going to see the story of two Chinas, one a global superpower, the other a land where 600 million people live a life of starkly different from the glittering skylines of Shanghai and Beijing. Stay tuned to find out what happened. The number of Chinese citizens living below the international poverty line, which the World Bank uses to monitor extreme poverty worldwide, has decreased by nearly 800 million over the previous 40 years. By doing this, China has helped to reduce the number of people living in extreme poverty by nearly 3/4 worldwide. At China's current national poverty line, there were 770 million fewer impoverished people during that time. In order to assess this accomplishment, the World Bank, the Development Research Center, and the State Council and the Ministry of Finance of China jointly conducted a study titled 4 Decades of Poverty Reduction in China: Drivers, Insights for the World, and the Way Ahead, and the China Center for International Knowledge of Development serving as the implementing agency. The study examines the main forces behind China's success in reducing poverty over the previous 40 years, takes into account the lessons learned from China's experience with other developing nations, and makes recommendations for China's future policies. Imagine you are in your childhood and your parents were hardly able to meet the expenses. You felt unhappy for those things that you couldn't have, but that made you strong enough to face any circumstance that made you a millionaire today. The party leadership group of the Democratic Republic of the Congo Secretary, Minister Ma Zhetang, stated that China has helped the greatest number of people in human history through its fight against poverty. In order to maintain the progress made in reducing poverty, China intends to intensify its efforts to promote rural revitalization and concentrate more on attaining endogenous development in areas where people have been lifted out of poverty. But do you know that this was not the case with China a few years back? What do you think might have contributed to extreme poverty in China? Let's see. The government released a number of disparate data sets on wealth in the second biggest economy in the world, reigniting a long-standing debate about whether China is a rich or poor country. Premier Li Keqiang fueled the debate by pointing out that 600 million people in China survive on a US $140 a month. Li said at the Beijing press conference, "It's barely enough to cover monthly rent in a mid-sized Chinese city." Li's remarks support the claim that China is a relatively impoverished nation because more than 40% of its 1.4 billion citizens still make less than $5 a day. However, his script stands in stark contrast to other recently disclosed wealth data about China, which portrays the nation as far wealthier. The head of China's National Bureau of Statistics stated that the country's infrastructure facilities accounted for $182 trillion in assets at the end of 2019. Hence, we can say that the claim that every Chinese person in the nation possesses assets worth close to 1 million yuan was widely mocked because it effectively makes every Chinese person a millionaire. A similar controversy was sparked in April 2020 by a survey conducted by the People's Bank of China among urban Chinese households, which revealed that, on average, each household had assets worth roughly $450,000 at the end of 2019, including real estate and financial holdings. Imagine the life of people in China. In this situation, without a job, how will they meet their expenses? Why doesn't the government provide allowances for old-age people? China Finance, the central bank-run journal that published the survey, removed the article from its social media account due to the intense controversy surrounding the central bank's findings, which were based on a survey of over 30,000 households. The fact that the publication caused any controversy at all is a reflection of China's extreme income inequality, as the country is officially classified as middle income, with a per capita GDP of roughly $10,000 and the largest economy in the world when measured by a purchasing power parity. However, the state receives a disproportionate share of income, creating what is known as rich state, poor people scenario. The wealth disparity in China is among the largest in the world. The measure of wealth inequality in a population, the Gini coefficient, increased to 0.4670 in 2017 for the second consecutive year, indicating severe income inequality. For the past 2 years, China has not released the coefficient. The income gap between rural and urban populations further complicates the picture. A lot of foreign friends who traveled to Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou were amazed to learn that China is likely wealthier than the US or Europe. The official Xinhua news agency-affiliated social media account Neotenquin posted on Friday. Is the gimmick made to prove that the government is wealthy? Does the government believe that doing so will help in more foreign trade and investments? However, Guangzhou, Shanghai, and Beijing only show a portion of China. Outside of these cities, there's another China, it continued. China's statistic agency reports that the country's per capita disposable income increased by 5.8% to US $4,300 in 2019. In 2018, the median rural income was 14,839 yuan, or 1,236 yuan per month, while the per capita income in rural areas was 16,021 yuan, or 13,035 yuan per month. About 40% of China's population lives in rural areas, where low wages have hampered Beijing's attempts to change the economy of the nation to rely more on domestic consumer demand. Beijing's announcement at the National People's Congress that it will focus on domestic growth drivers in the upcoming year due to the increasingly unstable global economic environment has given the initiative even more urgency. Moreover, we can see that China's enormous domestic population, many of whom are only now starting to experience the goods and services that we in the West take for granted, undoubtedly have a lot of unrealized potential. It is time that we stand with Chinese population to protect it from becoming another Sri Lanka. Share your thoughts in the comments. From a country that was once a paradise of entrepreneurs, China went into a pitfall. Several reasons contribute to this, and a major factor is urbanization. Although at first thought to be beneficial to the nation's economy, China's urbanization is now recognized as one of the main factors contributing to poverty in the country. The Chinese government pushed the urbanization initiative, which got underway back in 2012, to spur new kinds of growth for the nation. Furthermore, even though the nation's poverty rate has marginally decreased, over 252 million people still live on less than $2 per day. Many farmers move to cities in search for higher-paying jobs after leaving their rural communities. Many of these workers are forced to accept low-level positions because of their low skill level and lack of education. Furthermore, these workers are simply switching from one low-paying job to another due to rising living expenses, which has exacerbated urban poverty. Moreover, the Hakua system is designed to prevent these migrant laborers from being eligible for government assistance. China's home registration system, known as the Hakua system, is in charge of overseeing and allocating government-funded services like pensions, healthcare, and education. But the way the system is set up, a person loses their claim to these benefits if they relocate from their home areas. As a result, rural workers who relocate to cities are no longer eligible for government-funded retirement benefits or health care. In addition, their kids lose access to school if they move with them. In rural areas, the trend of urbanization is having the worst effect. Children and older people are frequently left behind when adults from rural families relocate to cities in search of employment. Moreover, many children are left behind because one-third of China's rural students under the age of 16 have at least one migrant worker parent. Should a law be passed to ensure that every child is getting a quality education? We don't know, but we should stand to protect them. In China's countryside, nearly 60% of children see their parents fewer than twice a year. Frequently, grandparents are left with these children because they're unable to provide adequate care for them or are overly preoccupied with farm work. While urbanization helps the economy and may be advantageous for some Chinese, many others have suffered as a result. The majority of those affected by the massive national migration and migrant workers and those left behind in rural areas. Urbanization is currently one of the main factors contributing to poverty in China as a result. As we conclude today's deep dive into why an astonishing 600 million Chinese citizens live below the poverty line, it's clear that this issue is more than just numbers and statistics. It's about real lives, dreams, and struggles. If you found today's video enlightening, don't forget to hit the like button. And for those of you who haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon. Thanks for watching.